things in life that's certain. Death, taxes, and 85 will always go.
So with that, so what you saying now? Let's get into this draft, man. Let's get into what everybody wants to really talk about. From your perspective, just share, I guess, some of your thoughts on the draft. You know, some of the players that have kind of caught your eye. Some of the ways that you kind of see the Bengals, how you kind of see their draft playing out.
I see it's a few different scenarios that the Bengals can go, in my opinion. If they, especially depends on what happens in front of them, as far as whether it be a run on quarterbacks or not. At 9, if everybody sits still, and I think it's gonna be Foster though. I really do think it's gonna be Foster though. I think Reuben Foster is gonna be our pick at 9. If that's and that's if Mike Williams is gone. Mike Williams, I think, is the trump card for us. Right. To be able to put Mike Williams with AJ Green, that's crazy though. I know, and we got a lot of people like they need linemen, and that's true. They do. We do need to fix the O-line. When you pick 9 and you pick in the top 10, you the first round, this player has to be special.
Right.
You can't just pick. I mean, or whatever you pick for need. Hell, you can go from 2 to 7 for need. Whatever you want to do, something like that. Pick 1 needs to be just all around. He has to be solid. Right. So I mean, so another thing we were talking about the receivers.
Right.
If Tennessee offers some money to Deshaun Jackson when they skip receiver,
right.
So free agency is going to tell us a lot about what could maybe happen in front of us. If they don't get no receiver, we know that we know which way they may be leaning in front of us. So right. I'm just going to assume that he's gone. I think it's gonna be Foster though.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. I think from day one, man, like the first person that I looked at was Foster, and like as soon as I saw this dude, just like everybody else says, immediately I'm thinking of him in the backfield with Tez. Like how nasty that would be on defense.
I need to cut you off, whatever, and everything. That player that Tez was mentioning, whatever, got a little birdie, whatever. That's right. Who that was too.
Don't tell me that.
Got a little birdie with whatever, and everything. I have to drop a bomb right there, whatever. Everything. Need one of those flex, whatever. Drop a bomb, whatever. That's right. Who I heard.
Ooh.
That's what I heard.
Man.
So that's gonna be interesting, whatever, as far as how they play.
Man. I'm trying like last year not to get, because I really want Foster, man, and like just from the impact standpoint, thinking about him playing with Tez, but I'm trying not to get too hype about him because of somebody is a trade up.
I think his stock gonna go. I definitely think his stock, whatever, is gonna be top 10ish, whatever.
Right.
I think he's gonna lock in that top 10. That's no doubt. I think whatever. And reason why another reason I picked him is because his picking him starts a chain reaction.
Right.
Ray Malou is gone. It's pretty much it's a wrap. He might as well after that, whatever. He might as well start preparing to sell his home here in Cincy.
Right.
It's over.
Right.
It's over. Then you get that money. Then that loosens. Loosens the money up for him. Loosens the money up for us. Getting rid of him. So it's actually a whole chain reaction for us. But my first overall pick, I give it to Reuben Foster. I think he's gonna be the pick at 9.
Right.
Now, after 9, going into the second round, it's just gonna be interesting. It all depends on what's gonna happen with McCarron.
Right.
I know you had the whole thing about the maybe him getting a third round pick, right. And then it's rumors are going around that saying that the Bengals can demand a 1 coming from some other GM, such as old boy who's the GM of the Indianapolis, the Colts. Can't think of his name right now. Used to be the GM of the Colts.
I
He was on ESPN talking about McCarron probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
He was saying that right now a lot of teams will have him on top of their board as far as in reference to quarterbacks, including the draft quarterbacks.
Right.
So if he's anywhere near that, whatever, whatever, and I just that's why I backed off. Okay, you claim 1. I just hell, 2 is cool with me.
Right.
Whatever you said that he's that he could possibly be that high on some other board.
Right.
But I'm gonna stick with the 2. I think they can get a 2 from McCarron.
Right.
Whether it be higher than that 2 be higher than their draft spot at 9. It could be. Right. But that first pick in the second round, first pick in the second round, I'm probably gonna go to receiver. It's tough, man. It's gonna be a receiver or defensive end, but I say receiver because right now my count right now is 27 defensive ends is coming out. Right. That's got talent in the draft. It's flooded. Right. So I know a lot of people was on the defensive end like you got to take Barnett. And it's like, nah, no, you don't. If it's a premier position there, such as where Foster is a linebacker, or whatever, you got to take that. You got to take him right there because it's only maybe 3 linebackers that's worth even touching in this draft between Foster, what's that, Zach Cunningham, out of Vanderbilt, and this T.J. Watt. Right. Those really the only 3 that I don't really heard about. That's
and the kid from Ohio State. They talk about him too.
Yeah. Right. The kid McMillan, or was it? Yeah.
Yep, that's him.
Yeah. So it's only whatever. So I'm thinking that they probably top 2 if they got 2 picks in the second round. I'm thinking that they probably will go with a receiver, depending on if they feel how they feel with like I think D.D. Westbrook and them is gonna be there early too. Maybe John Ross. John Ross is pretty short. It depends on. I don't know, man. I did my count to see how many receivers is coming out of that could go in the first round.
Right.
I mean, I had Baltimore taking receiver, but right now they just lost a linebacker.
Right.
Well, starting linebacker. So that I'm thinking that Zach Cunningham kid could end up. He could end up in Baltimore. They first round pick now for me. Is now went from receiver to linebacker because of that.
Right. It's tough, man. I think like you said, Reuben Foster to me would be my number 1. Number 2 is where it gets interesting because, just when I kind of look back at some of their history, and I'm not exactly sure, but it always seems like they address one side of the ball first, and then in the second or the following pick, they address the other side of the ball.
Right.
But it would be crazy to me, man, if just given the defensive end class with like this depth, this edge rushers, and what I've been hearing about Tim Williams falling to the second. I mean, I don't feel like you should draft 2 players from the same college, but if you told me that you could draft,
I was thinking about that the other day. Has that ever happened that somebody pulled like first and second round pick, whatever, been from out of the same school?
I don't think it has. But if you tell me that Reuben Foster is there in the first round and we snag him, and Tim Williams is like staring you in the eyes in the second, and he was, supposed to be a first round pick, I don't know how you don't pull the trigger. This is to me, like a lot of people are like, oh, I want Barnett. I watched him the whole time. To me, honestly, man, like, I listened to a scout break down the 2, and the guy basically said that Tim Williams is like LT waiting to happen. Like, he's not LT right now, but with the right coaching and tutelage, like, this dude could potentially be LT. And this is coming from the guy that drafted LT. This isn't just some random, Joe Schmo out there saying, this isn't some scout saying I compare him to LT. This is the guy that actually coached him. So when you look at the natural ability of this dude, it's not like a Marcus Hunt thing either, where it's like, oh, he's just massive and strong. Like, he has the quickest burst off the line out of any of these guys.
And I can see that though. If they decided to do that, whatever, I will be totally fine with it. So let me ask you this: whatever, you got 2 twos, whatever.
Right.
Let's just say you get your second 2 is Chicago. I think they pick around. Is there 4? Chicago is
Chicago, I think so. I think you're right. They're around that top
right.
five.
So,
Really.
all right. So Tim Williams there, whatever at 4, whatever. You pull the trigger for Williams at right there. You got your own pick at 9. Now that second pick, whatever and everything. Are you leaning towards receiver, or are you gonna go get that center? Now take in mind, it's 3 centers.
Ooh, man.
I'm
going center. I'm going center, and I only go center just because the drop off from center from round 2 to round 3 or 4 is way more significant than receiver, because I feel like just looking at the receiver class, once you start to kind of comb back the guys after Mike Williams, you start to kind of see that there's a lot of guys that are out there that play receiver that are pretty good. Like you mentioned, D.D. Westbrook, you got John Ross, you got Juju, you got Mike Williams, of course, you got Corey Davis. You also have a guy that I'm really big on that a lot of people might be sleeping on, but I think whether we take him or whether he goes somewhere else, he's going to be good. Isaiah Ford is a dude that a lot of people are sleeping on. And he's a guy that could go, just because of how much depth is in this draft class at receiver, he could go anywhere from the 3rd to the 4th. So if you told me that I could get a guy like Reuben Foster, Tim Williams, you know what I'm saying? Give me the center, Eiflin, or give me the best center available. Give me the guy from LSU.
So you gonna run with the LSU center over Pat?
Either
way.
LSU.
I mean, I'm from what I've been hearing, is that everybody's kind of leaning towards LSU center as being the best center coming out.
I like to me, I think he's the best one, and it's just because not only can he play center, he can play guard, and he can also play left tackle. So he has more versatility versus the other guy. I think they said that he can play center and guard, but I don't think he can play left tackle. So
how you feel about Kentucky's center? They talking about he might creep up there too.
He could be up there. I haven't had a chance to comb through and hear about him yet, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he's up there. I think the only 2 guys that I really looked at was the top 2 guys so far, which was LSU dude and I believe the guy from Ohio State. But if I could get Reuben Foster, Tim Williams, the LSU dude, the LSU center, and then you tell me that in the 3rd round with one of the potential 3 picks in that round, I could grab Isaiah Ford or possibly D.D. Westbrook, because this whole thing with him, skipping the Senior Bowl, boy, hey, this could be like a draft for the ages. So to me, it's like, looking at this draft, man, there's a couple ways that we could go, because I think we have to solve the issue at linebacker. We need a pass rush, an edge rush. I mean, seems like a broken record, because it seems like we were talking
about. Let's scratch this up. So with that, whatever, we got the linebacker, we got the edge rusher.
Right.
We just found the center. Right. We got that. We just found the center, because I honestly think right now, with them, I think they're gonna bring Whitworth back and Zeitler. I think the biggest change in the offensive line will be center this year.
Right.
I think they're gonna ride the wave with Fisher. Something I was reading, I guess the exit interviews with Fisher, the Bengals' biggest thing part of Fisher, and they told him is that they want him to put on some muscle, right. And his technique. I wish that they had gave him his opportunity this year, right. Instead of trying to see how Seb do it right tackle, because I think they kind of defaulted his growth, because I think he got better.
Right.
And the thing about with him, I see him versus him and Cedric, kind of made me feel like I'm like, man, this is hopeless right here. Fisher kind of made me like, okay, that was a mistake. I can see that mistake. That's a learning mistake. I know I can see right there you made a mistake as far as giving up that particular sack and how it happened, right. Versus somebody just bullying you, whatever. And
right.
It's like, bruh, you ain't even gonna make it.
Right. See, I agree. I think, like you said. And that's really the only reason that the LSU dude intrigues me, is because he can play tackle. So it's like you get a guy that could potentially play, 3 positions depending on where you go with Zeitler, whether you keep him, whether you decide that Obuye or whatever is garbage within a year or whatever, you could just slide him in right there. So I think, like you said, this is this is a weird draft class because even though we need, another offensive tackle, you're not really gonna really get them in this draft. If you don't get one of the top ones, you don't necessarily get them, and then there's gonna be other guys at 9 that are better than some of the offensive tackles that are gonna be available in this draft. So
yeah, I know because I know you was on the Cam Robinson train.
I was at first, man, and then I really kind of looked at the situation, and it's like you have the 9th pick in the draft. Yeah, Cam Robinson would be a great pick, but would he really play this year? And I couldn't really say whether or not he would. And
But Marvin Lewis already said, whoever we already, I mean, and he we know how he is. Whatever we talking about, the same person that tells us that somebody gonna play with the weather and all that,
right?
all that, whatever, and everything. But 9th overall pick, you got to play. It ain't no. Unless you're a quarterback, you ain't red shirting this right now, whatever. Especially with this being this is a significant year for Marvin Lewis. I think this right here is one of those. It's one of them balls of BB situation. You gonna sink or swim. What you gonna do?
Right.
Whatever. So all that faith, whatever, trying to with certain players, whatever. I don't think he has that luxury anymore. I think he has to put out the best team possible this year to compete. And it just, you can't sit here and play with it and be like, I got next year, whatever. If they that person, let that person pan out. Nah, these players, whatever, the players, the one through 3, at least round 1, 2, 3 players have to be impactful players. Right. We can't have no red shirts. Right. These players have to be players that we're pushing out on the field.
Right, and I agree with that, man, because to me, the only scenario where I really see or would want them to pick Cam, it would probably be if Whitworth didn't come back, which I don't see that happening. I don't think that's even an option. So Cam would be nice, but if it doesn't really work out, if we can get Whitworth back and we can keep Zeitler and have Fisher start at the right, I think we could kind of get by at least this year up until next year and possibly try to grab, a center, guard, or whatever that they can do, man. Because we're talking about a team that went from, and I mean, it could all change too with a guy like Andre Smith. So say, for instance, they go out in free agency and they grab an Andre Smith. I mean, do you really need Cam Robinson then after that? So it's hard to kind of say what they're going to do until free agency happens. But
then you got another, Richie Incognito.
Incognito, right.
He's out of Buffalo, whatever, because Buffalo transferred him. He's going to be a free agent this year. So it's really. I actually think the offensive line is going to be. I think it's going to be fine though. I honestly think it's going to be fine. I think that it is the sore thumb, whatever. For the past year, they tried to ignore it and thought it was going to get better. Is with Bodine, and that's not going to. It's time to just go ahead and move on. I know this is on his last year deal. But they have to bring somebody in, whatever. It's nowhere you can ignore that right now.
Right, I agree, man. And with that, did you want to talk some more on the draft, or did you want to get into the playoffs? Because
I wanted to ask you. Okay, I know you told me 3. You told me at 3. Okay, 3rd round. You got a receiver. Who else you taking 3rd round? Would you gonna go get a running back in 3rd round?
Yeah, I think I would go at running back next. After that, possibly with that next 3rd round pick, I'll probably start to look at. Let's see. I probably, depending on what's there. Let me take a look at my list real quick. Depending on what's there, to be honest with you, I probably, and I think you touched on this a couple of times, I think an underrated need with Eifert going into a contract year will be another tight end. I mean, you don't know what the future holds there. Say, for instance, he gets back from the injury from this year and then he gets hurt again, and then you don't really have anything after him. I think I would look for a tight end. I think Tyler Kroft, when they took him, was it the 3rd round that they took Tyler Kroft?
Something like that.
I think you would have to, and I mean, I know we've been looking through a couple of these tight ends. They have a pretty good tight end class this year.
This tight end class, this class is coming out supposed to be a historical class compared to years.
Right.
Led by, it's supposed to be led by Howard, but
right.
It's now look like it may be led by what was the other cat name? Everybody with the freakish talent. Everybody talking out of Miami.
The kid from Miami. You got Howard, the kid from Miami. The other guy from Ole Miss, who I think the Bengals could look at. That guy who's I don't know if he's a receiver or a tight end. It says both, so I don't even know.
And then you got Jake Bucks, who tore his ACL.
Right. So
that's a play. He could be pushed back to the third round and stuff like that as well.
Right.
That somebody's willing. Somebody's willing to expend a third round to pick on him, even though that he might not be ready to
play
right away.
I mean, and this is the perfect situation for that. It's just like the Cedric Ogbuye situation at tight end, and you look at what we have here, which I mean, it's not bad. I'm not complaining. Tyler Kroft is serviceable, and Uzoma, has shown flashes every now and then. But I think last year told us basically what we need to know. Like, nobody is Tyler Eifert after he's not available. Like, nobody.
It's a drop off far as talent wise in that. So basically, you see the third round being applied for pretty much an offensive around across the board.
I think I could see it going towards the offense. I mean, I could see it going either way. Like, once I really go back into like the prime and dig into the numbers and look at the trends, and it would probably tell me more. I feel like just going off of what I remember, I think the third round is usually where they kind of look at linebacker, tight end. I think they kind of sometimes look at D tackle between that range too. So
yeah, I was thinking maybe after that. I was thinking DT far as in round the fourth, whatever, because with Paco is gone. You got Brandon Thompson. His contract rolled over. 69. What's the other cat now?
Deshaun Williams. You got Deshaun Williams.
So I'm thinking like, how much depth do they really got at that particular position?
Right.
At this time, far as who knows? You might have another building sitting there in the fourth round.
Right. I think that could be a way that they could go with D tackle because around third, fourth round is kind of where they tend to kind of dip and dab in that defensive tackle position. But I kind of actually like where they're at with defensive tackle going into next year because even if they don't keep Peko, you're talking about a rotation that could consist of Andrew Billings, Pat Sims, and, depending on, they played Deshaun at nose sometimes. They kind of bounce him back between nose and Geno's position. They've also played.
So next year, offensive line was or front seven. Let me ask you a question: would you feel comfortable with this front seven? Would you feel comfortable with Dunlap, Geno, Billings, and let's just say the Tim Williams thing does come through? You got Tim Williams, then your linebacker core. You got Tez, you got Foster, and I think they really gonna give Nick a try for the outside linebacker. I think they really. We're kind of happy with some of the things that he did. I think how they kind of put it as far as what his mistakes, they kind of say that a lot of his mistakes were just, learning mistakes and just being out of place, which, I mean, will come over time as far as, with play-wise. Right. Also could be made up with the difference as far as you having two dynamic linebackers on the field already, as far as with Tez and Foster, that it may give him that time to even learn and with them guys, because they said, from what I read, Foster and Tez are pretty much the same minded type of linebackers. They're able to point out and know where play going. Right. And if you got somebody like that, you got two outstanding linebackers that's like that. That only can do wonders for somebody that's that's like a sponge soaking up that stuff. He kind of he gives me that Sean Lee from the Cowboys feel.
Right. I agree. I think. Like the rotation that you just named, I would be hard pressed to find anybody that could really stop that defense. Like you're talking about Billings. Like let's just get into Tez being behind Billings. Let's just get into that. Like that's nasty right there. And then you're talking about potentially a little sprinkle of a WJ3 in there. I don't think anybody wants that, man. I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think anybody wants to see it. Like I used to be a big Denard fan until he actually got on the field and we saw how whack he was. But if it was me, man, and you might be able to attest to this more than I can. Didn't Pac-Man, when he first came in with us, when he started to transition in, didn't he initially start in the slot and then he moved to the outside where he became better than Leon Hall.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, it's nothing against Pac, and I just feel like I want to see the best three corners, from the cornerback position on the field at the same time. If you told me that we could go out there with those guys that you named in the defensive line, and those guys on the second level, and you told me that we could go out there with a WJ3 on the outside, and the only reason I say that is because he doesn't really play slot corner. So if we had WJ3 on the outside, we had Dre on the other outside, and Pac-Man in the slot with them dudes, I really don't know how defenses would do anything against that. Like, that defense would be pretty nasty to me. That would, I just don't know what you would really do with that, man. I don't know.
That's a pretty nasty. Just thinking out that particular that defense is solid all the way around. It's just it kind of give me that Denver defense almost, whatever, as far as like they got a special player in almost damn near every position as far as on defense. And, and then also your D.D. Westbrook, you kind of got your Emmanuel Thomas, you got it's kind of almost setting up to be that particular type of team.
Right.
As far as if everything plays out straight and stuff like that. So I agree. I'm with you on that though.
Right. So man, you just, that would be a nasty combination, man. But I guess if you didn't have anything else for the draft, we could touch on, what we think needs to happen for, the Bengals to make it back to the playoffs next year.
Yeah. I honestly think they will. I honestly think with the schedule and what the team, the health, far as getting healthy, and then the players that they're going to be able to bring in this year, I think there's going to be a totally bounce back year for them. I think I do see the AFC North getting a little bit more competitive. Right. In a way that Cleveland, if Cleveland can do what they need to do with their receiver, with their picks, they could potentially start trying to get in the mix. But I actually see us back in the play. I see the whole Atlanta movement. It's pretty much the same, as identical thing, whatever. Right. People were just bashing Matt Ryan like the past 2 years.
Right.
Like, man, that sounded like dog, whatever, and everything, because he was getting the same flag. And I'm sitting here looking at the Falcons fan, like, oh man, Matty Ice, we love him. I'm like, man, that's crazy what winning would do. Y'all was just torching this guy, talking about we don't think he can do it, and blah blah blah. So
right.
I think the same situation. I actually think we can do it. And just looking at the climate of the AFC, I definitely think we got a chance, because right now to beat Brady, you got to have a good defensive line. You can get the Brady, which Denver showed last year, whatever and everything. You can win.
Right. I agree. I jotted down a couple of notes earlier because I was just looking I was looking at the teams that made it to the playoffs this year and trying to see if I could kind of uncover some trends, because it was kind of a weird combination. Like when you really take a look at the teams that are in there aren't any, in a sense, outside of like Seattle and a couple teams here and there. They're Seattle and New York, the Giants. There aren't really any like defensive juggernauts that were in the playoffs this year. And one thing that I noticed, that majority of the playoff teams from this year finished top 10 in offensive efficiency. So a lot of them were just efficient offensive teams. Like when you looked at their defensive efficiency, they were all over the place. They were in the 20s. But I noticed that the majority of them were in that top 10 in offensive efficiency, which they weren't turning the ball over. They were running the ball right. They were passing right. So I think if we improve in that department, which we didn't have a bad offense, and it's hard to say that. We didn't have a bad offense, but we didn't have an efficient offense. Like, they weren't scoring efficiently and effectively as they should have, and I think that kind of held us back. I think we've all talked about the offensive line playing better, so you can't have Andy Dalton out here getting sacked 40 times. on defense, I feel like we played very well during some of the stretches of those games. But I think that we need next year not even to just get more sacks per se, because Marvin had the whole soundbite where he said, most of the teams that led in sacks didn't even make the playoffs. And I agree with that. But I think that we need to create more turnovers, because I felt like there were a lot of drop picks by us this season that could have changed a lot of the outcomes from games. I also think, like, in terms of the coaching, I think that we have to do a better job when it comes to the defensive coaching. I mean, Pittsburgh learned this last night. You need to really build your game plan up against the actual personnel that you're playing against. So I like to see more of a focus on that. And stopping the run, man. That was really the only thing that I could really harp on about the defense. The other things are kind of like tic-tac things that you can really take, but stopping the run next year, man, is definitely going to be important.
You think with Foster, Billings, and
Oh yeah, easily. If you bring in those three players, man, the run game it's over for it. It's over for it between Billings, Foster and Tez. It's over. That's all you got to do right there. But with that being said, too, I think we have to play the best players, man. No matter what, no matter whether this guy is a vet guy. Like, if you're not the best player, bro, you can be on the team, but you can't have the majority of the snap.
So who do you think, like, right now? I think probably. I mean, who would you sit? Who's the player that you're gonna be looking at that you're gonna be like, I think we got somebody better right now that could outplay them?
I mean, the void is right there at nose tackle. You have to play Billings. I don't care whether he didn't play a snap last year or not. I mean, you have to see what you have there. Other than that, I would probably say a lot of the places, honestly, that we need to play the best player, there's holes there. So I would look at whoever is starting for Ray Maluga at that linebacker position. Somebody else has to play there. You look at right defensive end with Michael Johnson. I mean, I love Michael Johnson. He's a great player. Well, he's a great person. Let me rephrase that. Not a great player. He's a pretty decent player. He's an even greater person. But if you were to tell me that you could bring in, and let's not even say Tim Williams, because he's more of a developmental guy. But if you had, I don't know, say for instance you signed somebody that was a pretty decent edge rusher, or somebody that if you got Myles Garrett or something like that, you got to start him, bro. Like, you got to start him over Michael Johnson. You got to move Michael Johnson to a rotational kind of role or whatever.
I actually think that happened this year. A lot of people, I mean, they let him start, but Michael Johnson, far as PT time, was diminished a lot. More than people. Matter of fact, a lot of the beat writers been mentioning that, like, how diminished his role was towards the end of the year.
Right.
He really did, whatever. His snaps and roll, his snap and roll parts of the team has absolutely changed.
Right.
And I think that's actually good, preparing for us for the next, the next guy who's eventually that they draft to bring in. So.
Right. And I mean, and it's not even just a bash defense or whatever. I really feel like on offense, it's more spots that we have to play the best guy. I mean, I love Jeremy Hill, but, if you come in and you have a competition between all three running backs, you got to play the best guys. I mean, it's just point blank, period. Even when it comes to the wide receiver position. If Tyler Boyd, next spring, Tyler Boyd is out playing Brandon LaFell, or the rookie receiver that we potentially could bring in is out playing, Brandon LaFell or Tyler Boyd, you have to play the best player, man. I mean, you look at the offensive line. There is no reason why there shouldn't be some sort of competition for Russell Bodine in there. I really don't understand. I really thought this year they were going to do that with Westerman. I thought we were going to see Westerman, get some snaps at center, see them kind of go at it. But, Paul Alexander, I can't even really say that he's going to make any changes with playing the best players. I mean, it took him almost near an entire season to play Jake Fisher instead of Cedric Ogbuye. But
I mean, let me say this. I get reason why he did it because you invested a first round pick, so you feel like, hey, you gotta get the timing in, but it's one of those hard situations. It was a give and take, whatever. It's like when should you have shut that down? When was the appropriate time to shut that down? Should you have known 6 games in? When you should know? Like I told you, some of the players said that they actually seen it during the, before the season started, whatever. That like, hey, we knew that position was going to be in trouble,
right?
And whatever. And they felt, even like I told you, some players felt that they should have been addressed. It should have been addressed at that particular period of time, and it wasn't.
Right.
And like I said, I get it, but because it just, I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to move. Just hopefully that cloud is done, whatever. From what they're saying, though, they're not going to. Cedric's not starting next year.
Right.
Which what they're saying though, Cedric's going to pretty much sit. It's going next year. It's going to be another red shirt, sit and learn year. And I guess they'll see what after the following year to give it a try to see if anything changes. But who knows?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that this year just taught us that you got to play the right players, man. Even when it came to Cody Core, he didn't end up playing until like the last 5 games of the season. He should have had plenty of opportunities before that. I like James Wright, but there's no reason that James Wright should have been holding off Cody Core from the field, man. I mean, this is James Wright that we're talking about, not somebody that's,
Wright been hurt for the past 3 years?
3 years, man. So, I mean, to me, that's just one of the things that they have to change next year. Not anything too big, but that also brings me to the lesson that we kind of learned last year, which is retaining your key players, man. I mean, guys like Reggie Nelson. I mean, we couldn't really help Marvin Jones get in the way, but you can't let a guy like Reggie Nelson go, man. And I mean,
I think Zeiler is that player for this year.
Exactly. And you hit it right on the head. I mean, I could kind of see where they were going with Nelson because of the age, but it's like this dude is coming off of a Pro Bowl year, and you're like you're not really making that concerted effort to keep him. And I think that you have to learn from that, and you have to keep Kevin Zeitler because you can't let Kevin Zeitler go, man. This dude is like going to be a Pro Bowler the instant that he leaves from the Natty, and that's only because a lot of those beat writers that have their Pro Bowl votes or whatever don't really give us the credit that we really deserve when it comes to our players. Like, if Kevin Zeitler played, and it almost gives me flashbacks of back to Justin Houston. I mean, not Justin Houston, but Justin Smith when he was in the Natty. We knew he was a Pro Bowler, but then he had to go all the way to San Francisco to finally, get his first Pro Bowl. Or Jonathan Joseph, he had to go to Houston to become a Pro Bowler. I mean, the same thing is going to happen with him, man. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler now. They just really sleeping on him. So you can't let Zeitler go, man. You can't let Witt go. You can't let Zeitler go. Dre, he had a great year. I wouldn't really lose sleep over Dre leaving though. I mean, that's just me. Some people feel differently, but I wouldn't lose sleep. But if we lost Zeitler, bro, I'd be waking up in cold sweats. Like, we might have to take Cam Robinson. I might. Because you talk about Westerman. If Westerman ends up being like another Bodine or Cedric Ogbuye, I'm going to have a panic attack during the game for Andy Dalton. But
I think they know the initiative, how strong. I mean, how things got to play out though. Like I said, I think they'll be fine next year. We bounce back, we'll be fine. Be interested to see how everybody else doing the division as far as. And
that's the thing too. We gotta win the division next year, man. I don't think when you really look at it, it seems like everybody that was like, okay, we don't have to win the division to get to the playoffs, was on the outside looking in. It's like
all the division winners were like made it to the next step this year.
Right. So we gotta win the division, man. We gotta take the North back, man. Especially from the Squillers, man. Nah, we gotta come and get that back. So, like you said, it's gonna be tough because the Browns are gonna be better. The Ravens, they coming back off of a year where they bounced back. They're gonna be better. The Squillers, they just, took that deal.
Speaking of Cleveland, I got this scenario. So anyway, it came out that they're interested in Watson,
Right.
but they don't feel that they don't feel like he's a number one overall pick.
Right.
So they at 12. So if Cleveland say, hey, we'll give you our 2 to go from 12 to 9.
True.
And you got possibly Foster between 12 and 9 3 spots with it, but you can get our 2. What you gonna do?
Man, to me, just thinking, anytime I think of the Cleveland Browns, it just automatically in my head thinks of Mike Brown immediately hating them.
He can't stand them.
I would think that he might consider it. Like, the one thing that could win him over is draft picks. But I think that he hates that franchise so much because of what they did to his dad that he probably wouldn't take it. And to me, I mean, this is my thing. I don't necessarily fear the Browns, but the fact that they have Hugh, the fact that I know that Hugh knows what he's doing, and the fact that it could be a quarterback that they would be taking, I would be kind of wary of that, only because a quarterback has the ability to turn your entire organization around. So when you're talking about a guy like Deshaun Watson, would I take a second round pick to risk the chance that Deshaun Watson could finally be like the guy that turns Cleveland around with Hugh? I don't know. After watching that national championship, I don't know if I would do it. And that's just more so because even if it was Baltimore, I mean, of course we wouldn't do it if it was the Steelers, but even if it was Baltimore, I wouldn't do it either. Just because, you give them a player like that rather than having them keep a guy that could be, I don't know, like Cody Kessler for the next 3 years. I don't know, man. I don't know if I would do that.
That's a tough one, though. That's just something on the horizon to think about because that's a chance that scenario can play out.
Now, if they were gonna go and get like a left tackle or something, okay, cool. And maybe even if you said somebody like, I don't know, I haven't really watched too much of the other quarterbacks to say, but if they were going for like a Kaiser or a guy that's gonna be like overhyped, then yeah, I'll go ahead and take that second from them, let them do their thing. But you either risk losing out on Foster or you risk giving them a really good player. Or what if they trade with us and then they take Foster? Like, I really feel like Hugh was in our draft room last year. It really was kind of crazy with some of the picks that he was picking in those rounds were like a lot of players.
Snatched the scout up. One of the scouts turned coaches over there.
Right.
So they pretty much they knew based off due to they had already been in the system last year, they knew pretty much
who we were going to take.
Who was going to be looking for this year. What was going to be the needs and wants as far as this past year. This year they really don't know much because they've been out of the system for over a year. Last year they did though.
But I think just them, and this is my thing. Like, yeah, they had more insight last year, but you got to think about it. These are two guys on their staff that have been there, that were there for like the past 2-3 years. I think the other guy was even there longer, so they know how we do things.
Yeah, I think he was there for like maybe 7 or 8 years. He been with Duke under Duke for a minute.
So they know how we do things. They know how we put our board together. You know what I'm saying? They know what we look for. They know, what our scouts are looking for. And the only reason I say that is because when I was doing the prime joint last year, a lot of them people that they took was high on prime. And so I'm like, are they stealing our players or like what's going on?
Yeah, right.
Like, what's popping? Like, man, it's almost like they were taking all of our players. So, I mean, we'll see, man. But hopefully, they don't know too much. But with Hugh being on the same, aren't they coaching the Senior Bowl or something?
Yeah.
They on the staff with the same. I mean, man, it was almost like they set us up last year.
Yeah, Hugh had sent the invitation out to Watson. He declined it.
Oh yeah. I saw. I would decline it too. Don't nobody want to play in Cleveland, man.
I'm just wondering how's that going to translate? Is he when they go to combine, whatever he wanted? Is that going to be one of the teams that he declined to sit down with, or what?
I think that action alone right there says he does not want to play in Cleveland, man. I think he's sending Hugh and them boys a message early, like, nah, this is not where I want to be at. And I mean, I don't think any player really wants to end up in Cleveland, to be honest with you. Like, I don't think any player wants to, like, I think that's every, like, top 10, top 15 draft picks' worst nightmare is do not get drafted to Cleveland. Operation don't get drafted to Cleveland. That's every, I think that's every player's thing. Like, even Corey Coleman last year, bro, you seen the picture that they took, like, right when he was drafted by them? Like, his face?
He was a little sick and salty at the same time.
Exactly, man. Nobody wants to play there, man. I remember, just being down here with all these FSU cats, man. It was one dude a couple years ago that got drafted, and he was like, man, he was like, to be honest with you, as long as I don't get drafted to the Browns, bro, I'm good.
That's crazy, though. That's crazy. Well, you got a hell of a, little thing to try to break with that, though, because I remember when the Bengals used to be like that. So,
yeah.
It took a while for Marvin Lewis to break that niche that people felt this way.
But I think like the difference between us and Cleveland, man, is like the city of Cincinnati. You have stuff to offer to players there. You have places to eat. You got places that you can go out to. You got things that you can do, man. Like in Cleveland, you just got factories, bro. Like you just got factories, cold weather. Like, I mean, you could go up to Cedar Point, but that's not even in Cleveland. That's in Sandusky, right? Yeah, I mean, like, man, you go to the Natty, it's stuff you can actually do. You can go and, catch the Reds game. You can go on the river. You can do a lot of stuff, man. It's really...
Shoot the Indy. If you want to see a hoop game, you can shoot the Indy in an hour to go see the Pacers and play somebody.
Right, and I mean, it's money to be made there. Like, you're talking about one of the metropolitan cities as far as business and all of that, that's going down there. You can make you some money in the Natty. I mean, you go to Cleveland, it's like your whole economy is LeBron. Like, that's it. Like, nah, man. I got a lot of my family are from Cleveland. My dad is originally from Cleveland, but nah, man. I would rather, as a professional athlete, I would much rather be in the Natty than Cleveland, man. I mean, there's no attraction other than LeBron there for anybody. It's just LeBron. Like, that's it. So, I mean, I think that's the difference a little bit.
I'm looking forward to draft day. I'm looking for when the league year kick off.
Oh yeah, man. That's gonna tell us a lot about what's gonna happen going forward as far as McCarron. That's when we'll finally get to see the deal actually go through. So I'm trying to be patient right now, man, and let these mock drafts mull over. They all over the place now. I mean, that ain't gonna change. They're gonna be all over the place all the way up until April or whatever. But yeah, man, I go ahead and sign off, man.
Man, we got to do this again. Get Moody and everybody else on, so we can probably touch on some more bases and stuff. But I think we touched on a lot of stuff today, though.
Yeah, but I mean, we could always. I mean, it's a long off season, so we'll have plenty of material and changes and things to talk about. But yeah, we'll definitely get back together and do a couple of these.
Always business, never personal. Here's the 3rd and 7, and McCarron goes down the field, and it's caught and breathes in for the touchdown.
Two things in life that suck: death, taxes, and 85 will always go.